Hi, everyone. Welcome to our version of the Subiendo Academy. We're here today to tell you a little bit more about what college life is like. And to get us started, we are joined by our esteemed Subiendo alumni who are here at the University of Texas at Austin with their studies. They've joined us to help share a little bit about what their experience has been like as a college student and hopefully answering some of the questions you might have as you consider where you're going to start your academic journey post high school. So I'm going to turn this over to Astrid, who is going to be our moderator for today, and just want to say thank you for joining us and learning more about what college life is like.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Clarissa Castillo. I'm an accounting major and I am a rising senior.
Hey everyone, my name is Steve Lamelli. I'm a business honors and MIS major, and I'm a rising sophomore.
Hi everybody, my name is Fernando Martinez. I'm a management information systems major, and I'm from Houston, Texas, a rising junior.
Hi everyone, my name is Cassandra Gonzalez. My major is public health and I'm a rising fifth year.
Hello, I'm Valeria Guerrero. I'm a rhetoric and writing major and I'm a rising sophomore.
Hi, my name is Valerie Faldoa. I am currently undeclared, but hoping to get into Moody this upcoming semester, and I'm a rising junior.
Hi everyone, my name is Astrid. I just graduated from UT and I studied journalism and communication studies, and I'm going to be the moderator for today, and Valeria is going to be helping me out with that as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with this. So our first question for you all is, how did you know you wanted to pursue college?
Okay, I think for myself, it was honestly like all the summer programs that I attended, Subiendo being part of them. I think it just like really opened my eyes and like let me see like how it could be if I did go to college, and like specifically UT.
Yeah, so for me, I think it was always something that I really enjoyed. I always just really enjoyed education, and I have a pretty big family. I'm actually the eldest of 6 children total, so I knew that if I were to pursue higher education, then I feel like my younger siblings would definitely be much more motivated. They could see that it's possible to come where we come from and to achieve what we can achieve.
I think for me, I just kind of saw like a really big contrast in like my life at home versus like my friends whose parents had gone to college, and I like kind of just like noticed a lot of like my parents constantly talked about like if they did go to college, like how much more they would be earning, or just like how like certain obstacles just wouldn't be there. And I knew that like I wanted to reduce those obstacles as much as I could. So I knew I wanted to pursue a higher education.
When I was little, my parents would always tell me like, you need to get an education, you need to get an education to do better in life. And when also attending the academy and other college programs that I went to helped me realize that I wanted to go to college, that it was something I really, really wanted and would enjoy.
Great. So we're going to move on to the next question. So this is kind of a preparing for college type of subject. What are some important factors that you all considered when choosing a college to attend?
Yeah, I think for me, the 2 main factors were definitely distance and cost. I knew that in terms of cost, I wanted something that if I did have to take out loans, it wouldn't be loans that were really high that would make me unable to pay anything back in terms of 4 years. And then in terms of distance, I also, for me personally, I still wanted to remain close to my family. I still wanted to be pretty present. So I was looking for something that I could come back whenever I needed to, instead of having to hop on a plane and just come back like for Thanksgiving and Christmas, for example. So those are just 2 factors that are pretty important to me.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was like a lot of like cost, like, okay, like how many scholarships could I get to go to the school, like with like little debt as possible. But also like Steve mentioned, like I really wanted to stay in Texas, and like I knew like McCombs was a really great school. And I saw that through like Subiendo and the other academies that I had done during the summer before senior year. So just like I just felt more welcome to UT. But I think like factors, it was like cost, the distance as to like how far away it was from my home, and like how good the business school was.
I think for me, I definitely considered distance because I didn't want to be too far away from home, but I also really considered size of the school because when I was kind of like, I was like in programs that took us to college tours in high school, and the first time I actually visited UT, I just thought it was too big of a campus for me. So I wanted something that felt like a little more like just like homey and like smaller. And I actually didn't really get that feeling from UT until I came to Subiendo and kind of just like really saw like how close knit like a group can be, and that's what that kind of provided for me, like a more homey feeling.
Yeah, similar to what everyone's saying, Subiendo really gave me that opportunity to come onto campus and, you know, get to experience the campus firsthand. And I think that's really important in the college decision process. And along that point, there's many colleges that offer high school students to, you know, pay for your plane ticket, pay for, you know, meals and stuff to kind of get that feeling of how it feels to be on their own campus. So be sure to look out for those.
I definitely considered like credibility and like how prestigious the school was, because I know that college is a big investment. So I wanted to make sure it was the best investment I could make. And distance wasn't too much of an issue, but I did consider like, am I going to be able to come back home? Like, how bad am I going to feel if I can't go to a certain event, or if I can? Like, it was just distance and credibility was a big factor for me.
A big factor for me specifically was, does the campus have resources that would definitely like help me or allow me to see what's like a future career I can go into, or what's the best classes that I can take, or can I really afford being here? I think affordability is like the number one factor that I looked at. If I was going to go to school but end up with a lot of loan and debt, that was definitely not a good option for me, because I thought going to college is a pathway to get a good job and get higher income and get more opportunities. And I didn't want anything in my future to like held me back from that. In terms of the resources, I definitely, when I went to the Subiendo program, when I went to the academy, I saw that there was people there that actually cared and that really wanted to align me with very good career prospects or very good resources, opportunities to go explore what's out there, especially in the business school. So do the resources on that campus match what you're trying to go for in the future? Is there enough help for you to ask a question that you feel comfortable going out and getting that answer?
Great. Thank you guys for your responses. Our next question is, how did you balance your senior year of high school with college applications, test prep, senior events, things like this?
It's important to stay organized, in my opinion. I feel like there's a lot that goes into, you know, applying for college. There's different components. There's, you know, the essay writing, the scores, the SAT, ACT scores, the letters of recommendation. So it's really, really, really important for you guys to have a document or maybe a spreadsheet, if you like spreadsheets, to sort of organize like, okay, these are the people I'm going to ask for letters of recommendation. I'm going to give them my resume. This is the deadlines I need to provide with them. In terms of essays, it's important to be on top of those things. Make sure to, you know, get those drafts out as soon as possible so you can have people look at them, catch those grammar errors and such. So yeah, my biggest thing is organization.
I would also like to add on, like, prepare like as much as you can, like before school even starts. Like those essay prompts, like they don't change much. And also like within scholarship, like essays that you have to write, maybe like they won't change that much other than like tell me a little bit about yourself, right? So like just like really know like what your story is, I would add. And like as long as you have like one big essay, I feel like that really sums up like who you are, your story really well. Like it's easier to like adapt it or like change it a little bit for other scholarships. I really liked what Cassie said about like spreadsheets. Like I remember like when I was a senior, I had like my little notebook and I would like write every single thing in there. And I would also like to add that like I became like best friends with my college like counselor, like my college prep, just because like I would ask her like every single like week, like, okay, like what else can I apply for? Like what other scholarships do you know about and everything like that. And it, like she would also like keep me in mind like later on, like for other like recommendations, or just like if she knew that I was like qualified for something, like she would bring it up to me.
Yeah, I really like all those points actually. In specific, the college like grad coach, if you guys do have that resource available to you, I would definitely put that to use, because they have a lot of experience, especially if you are like if you want to go to like a Texas school. I'm positive that they know people at that school, they know resources, they know scholarships that are available to you. And then, as Clarissa mentioned, working on those essays over the summer is definitely going to be like your best friend. Those prompts, as you mentioned, they don't really change. And if you focus a lot of your summer time in, writing drafts and drafts and drafts and figuring out who you are as a person and what story you want to portray, then it's definitely going to make your senior year a lot more manageable. Another thing that I really enjoyed is actually using a planner, as cliche as it may sound. But I like the planners that have like the month view that we can write on instead of like the day by day view. I just really like to go week by week and look, okay, like what do I have to do this week? Is there anything important that I have to prepare for? And then I can look like 2 weeks down the line as well. And I can be like, okay, like, the SATs in 2 weeks, maybe I should start studying a little bit more. Or, hey, this college application is due next Friday. Let me maybe try to stay in this weekend so I can finish it and then have next weekend free. So just having little things like that you can visually see and mentally prepare yourself, I think those are pretty important.
Great, thank you. So we're going to move on to another subject, and this is going to be the first few months of college and your transition into college. And so our question is going to be, how did you adjust to life away from home? And I'll go ahead and start with that. And so I think from my experience, I moved an hour away from home. So UT isn't very far from San Antonio at all, but it was very different to not be with my family every single day and to not see my friends from high school. I think I definitely experienced a bit of culture shock because where I come from, it's a very Hispanic majority community, and that wasn't the case at UT. So for me, at first, I didn't feel comfortable and I didn't feel like I had a place on this campus, but because of resources like Subiendo, I realized that I had a lot of friends and I had a place that I could call, my family away from home. And so it was really difficult for me at first, but I think it's about finding kind of your home on campus, whatever that may be, if it's an organization, a sports team, a club, kind of just finding those people that you can turn to when you need somebody.
Going on from that, I think how I adjusted away from home at UT specifically was that I used my network to kind of see how do people that look like me that are going to the major that I'm going to the school that I'm going to adjust themselves. So one of the things I specifically did was I reached out to alumni who were like graduates from my high school who went to UT, or some friends or relatives that had gone to UT, or my brother and sister, and asked them, what are some orgs that I can join when I'm there? What is like the different things that I can do? Are there like sports, clubs, things of that in general? And once I got something specific, so one of the specific things I got was, oh, there's an organization for business students called Association of Latino Professionals for America. And it can really help you learn about roles in business, talk to companies and recruit and things like that in general. So knowing that, the first day of school, that was kind of like my mission. Okay, I have to find this organization and make friends within that. And to me, that was definitely what helped me out the most, like reaching out to my Subiendo family, going to that organization and making friends immediately. And then once you make those group of friends, they'll introduce you to more and more people. And you would definitely become very adjusted that way.
Going off that, there are tons of groups to join. There's a group for I would say almost about everything. So it's really easy to find a group of people that you could consider your friends or just people that you can confide in. Subiendo did help a lot, especially with the beginning meetings. But adjusting can be very difficult if you're not used to a big city life, but it's not impossible, and it's definitely much more easy if you have a certain community, and it's 100%. You can find a community within the first month, and it's much easier that way. It helps ease the transition.
And so for our next question, as college students who are living away from home, we get a new sense of kind of a newfound freedom. So Steve, could you tell us about how you kind of manage that change in lifestyle and balancing those responsibilities?
Yeah, I think the biggest concept that I try to stick with myself is that there's a time and place for everything, right? And that time investments are definitely a really big thing for myself. I knew that if I had class like Monday through Thursday, and if I wanted to have my weekend free, then I would try my hardest to get all my work done within those 4, maybe even 5 days that I wanted to use Friday as well. I know that I'm a really, really big football fan, so the Cowboys were playing like on Sundays, right? And if I wanted to watch the Cowboys play on Sundays with some friends, then I had to get it done within the week. So again, I think I use that same planner method. I really, every single Sunday in the evening, I sat down and I said, okay, like what is due? What do I have to turn in? What would be good if I turned in? And what can I maybe just get ahead on? So having that little system for me really worked out because I was able to like physically check things off, and I was able to feel a lot more productive that way. And I feel like just balancing my time like that really helped me.
I think for me, I find myself to be the most productive when I'm super busy, just because I find that when I have a few tasks, my mind kind of just like wanders, and I kind of just like forget that I have those tasks. So for me, it was making sure that I have like work on campus, and I have work off campus, and then I have my school schedule. So having all of those three things together in one single calendar, like Steve said, having it like list down, it like broke down for me my day by day, which helps me kind of like feel really accomplished that day. So kind of just like making sure that I had Google Calendar was like my best friend. And I had like alarms like, oh, in 30 minutes like you have school, so okay, so I have this class. I made sure to kind of, if I had work for another class that I could get done in 30 minutes, then that was something that I was able to do. Just kind of like little things like that, things that would remind me physically, just because I myself am very forgetful. So having like a little ding on my phone was really helpful for me.
So now we're going to talk about dorm life. And so Valeria, I know that, you just got finished with your freshman year of college. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to live in a dorm rather than an apartment, or if you're doing that transition into an apartment now?
At the beginning, my parents told me that they really wanted me to live in a dorm just because they knew how I was waking up in the mornings. So that's a very big thing to consider. If you don't hear your alarms most mornings, I would recommend living in a dorm for your first year just so you can adjust to waking up by yourself, making sure if you eat breakfast in the morning, you get breakfast. Financials was a big thing to consider as well, but we ultimately decided that it would be better for me to live on campus just in case I happened to forget a book or I just needed something from my dorm really quick before. And it's harder to get my stuff if I'm off campus. And it's really easy to forget. I feel like the first year, it's really easy to forget, like, oh man, I have this class this day, I forgot my book. I am making the transition to an apartment right now because it's more financially plausible for me to live in an apartment, because it is a considerable amount cheaper. And I feel now like I'm ready to actually like set up a schedule for waking up, transportation, and I think it's important to make like a decision to leave the campus. It gives you more sense of freedom and responsibility. It's important to consider like factors like in the mornings, commute, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think adding on to that, I don't think UT requires you to live on campus your freshman year, but just being a freshman this past year, I would definitely recommend it. I personally lived in Jester, which is where a majority of the freshmen do live. And I have to say that in terms of convenience, it was definitely the most convenient option for me. I am a business student, so the business school is just right down the road. Greg Gym is right down the road as well. And I think like if there is an evening that I'm really, really hungry, there's Gendy's, there's JCL. So there's just really a lot of convenience that comes with living on campus your first year. Just as Valeria also mentioned, you also just want to get used to the amount of time that it takes to walk from like your dorm to your classes, the amount of time that it takes to commute campus, period. So I definitely think for convenience sakes and just for getting to know the campus, it's a good idea to dorm. But once you do have that opportunity, just as you mentioned, to make it a little bit more financially feasible, getting an apartment after your freshman year is generally what people do.
I'd also like to add that like living in the dorms, I feel like it's really an easier transition sometimes, like as a freshman, especially because like everything that's going on campus, like that like those first couple of weeks, like everyone's like doing all of these new student events and things like that. And I just think it's a lot easier to like stay involved if you do live on campus. And then like once you have like that family away from home, like it's like easier to like live off campus and like still have those friends and still build those relationships.
Great. And so our next question about dorm life is, what is it like to share a space with someone? And what are some things you should be considerate of and some ways to manage that? And Fernando, do you want to go ahead and answer that question for us?
Definitely. So one of the big things that you're gonna have to notice is that no one's like the same. And because you have a routine doesn't mean that your dorm mate or your suite mate is gonna have the same routine. And one of the big ones was at what time you wake up. It's very surprising because you might wake up at 10 a.m. or you might wake up at 6 a.m. and then your dorm mate wakes up at a totally different time. And since you're like enclosed in a dorm space, like you're gonna hear everything that they do. So you're definitely gonna have to establish like some type of guidelines with each other to, so y'all could definitely be respectful of each other's privacy, of each other's time, and peace and quality. So for me specifically, I wake up very early. I wake up like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. And then the dorm mate that I had my freshman year would wake up very, very late. So that was definitely a challenge. And you also have to think about at night, what time do they go to sleep? Are you a person that goes to sleep like at 10 p.m. or are you a person that goes to sleep at 2 a.m.? And then, so I think like sleep is very important because it's definitely going to affect the energy you have throughout the day. And that's just one of those things. The next thing would be like how clean you are. There are some people who are very content with like just dusting off and making sure it looks kind of all right. And there's other people who are very nitpicky, who want everything extremely clean, want it to smell very nice, to look a certain way and presentable. I'm not going to say which one I am, but just to understand, there is those type of people. So that's why it's very important to establish guidelines in the beginning. Do you want me to clean certain areas? Do you want me to take care of certain stuff? And delegate the tasks to each other. And other than that, just communicate. What do you feel comfortable with? Okay, I'm going to bring a friend over at this time. Is that okay? Communication is very key because if you were to just bring friends over and you're invading their space, apartment or dorm, they might feel disrespected and it could cause problems. So you definitely want to communicate whether you live in dorm or in the apartments.
Great, thank you for that. And so now we're going to transition into talking about finances and paying for school. And so Cassie, I know that you have a lot of experience with scholarships. So can you talk to us about some resources that you use to find scholarships of your own?
Yeah, so like Astrid said, I have some experience. One of the scholarships I got was called the Gates Millennium Scholarship. And so it's a really big scholarship that pays for full coverage. And I found that out through my counselor. So I think it was really cool how we all reiterated how important it is to talk to your counselors and college advisors if those are available to you in schools. They have a lot of information, and I think it's really important to keep in mind both local and big scholarships. So the Gates Millennium Scholarship is a really big scholarship, a nationwide scholarship, and it's really important to strive for those. They usually cover a large part of your college expenses. I think Coca-Cola is another one. There's a few, Ford I think does a really big scholarship, but it's also important to look at your local scholarships. So there's, I come from Brownsville, there was a lot of smaller scholarships that BIZ did, my independent school district did. So because it might sound like $500 or $1,000 isn't the most, but those can cover like school books or maybe part of like housing or part of tuition. And of course, when you look at universities, they themselves also have scholarships. So I know UT offers like the 40-acre scholarships, ULN or the University Leadership Network. And so it's really important to either reach out to the universities themselves or do a simple Google search and look at the kind of scholarships that university offers. And like I said, with college admission processes, it's important to be organized. So think about what are the requirements for that scholarship, when the deadline is, what is required for the letter of recommendation. And yeah, so organization is also key when it comes to scholarships.
Mm-hmm. To add on to that, I think looking back on when I was a senior applying to scholarships and things like that, I think it's really easy to get discouraged if you don't make it to those really big, really competitive scholarships. because so many students are applying to them, and sometimes you don't always, receive a call back for those scholarships, and that's okay. I think you should remember that, as Cassie said, there are a lot of other options out there. There are a lot of smaller scholarships, a lot of local scholarships, and they may not seem like much, but when you add them all together, in my experience, they are definitely more than enough. So if you are ever feeling discouraged that you didn't get, a certain big scholarship that you really wanted, you should continue applying for other small things. And like she said, asking your counselors, because there are so many organizations out there that have scholarships that people don't know about. So your chances of using your networking skills to get a scholarship can really help you in the end.
Mm-hmm. I'd also like to add that it's like there's like a I feel like two different scholarships. So like there's scholarships like that'll be like a one-time scholarship, and then there's other scholarships that are continuing. And I would definitely like encourage you all to apply as many like continuing scholarships, just because like hopefully like y'all will go to school for like 4 years or however long, right? But it's so much more easier to like pay for school and like not have like that doubt or like have that stress on top of you. And also like once you get to school, like Macombs, like they have like a continuing scholarship application, so like we get to apply to that. And there's just like multiple resources around campus also. But for high schoolers, I would definitely encourage you all to like definitely talk to your counselor. Like more than likely, like they'll have a whole entire spreadsheet of all the scholarships that like they know about that are local and all of that. So definitely apply to those.
Mm-hmm. And Clarissa, going off of that, talking about different types of financial aid, do you think you can explain to us the difference between scholarships and something like a grant?
Mm-hmm. So grants, I believe that they're, it's just like money that's like given to you either by like a federal, like by like the federal government or just like the state government, and like those you don't have to pay back. And like scholarships, like I think for both you might have to meet like certain requirements, like you might have to take out at least like 12 hours, certain like GPA and things like that. But basically I think like scholarships you apply to them, and then like grants, like usually if you apply for like the FAFSA, then like usually the college will just say like whether or not you're eligible for them.
And so another type of financial aid there is loans. And I know a lot of people are really afraid when they hear the word loans, but does anyone want to talk about, maybe if you're comfortable, sharing your experience with loans and that it's not so bad?
I'll start with this one. I think that was, you're absolutely right, Ashid. It was like one of my biggest fears, like coming to college. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't take one single loan out because I'm going to be in debt forever. But learning about like a subsidized versus an unsubsidized loan kind of just like really changed my perspective. For those of you that don't know, an unsubsidized loan, a subsidized loan is a loan that you don't have to pay interest on. Sorry, I think I may be confusing the two. But one of them you don't pay interest on basically while you're in school, and then 6 months after you graduate, you start paying those the actual amount, and then the 6 months interest that started from you when you graduated to the time you start paying off your loan. And the other, you don't incur any interest while you're in school, or sorry, you have that interest while you're in school. So your loan at the end of it will be much, much higher. I believe the difference between the two whenever you're applying to your financial aid is just like what your parents make, because that's going to be a big factor in like what your financial aid package will look like. And for most students that are Pell Grant eligible, you're going to be eligible for those loans that you do not have to pay interest on. So I definitely do think that it's not as scary as you may think. A lot of people take out loans and they're completely fine. But definitely do look into the difference between the two, and just make sure that if you have a loan that you are going to be accumulating interest in, and you don't absolutely need that loan, or you can get the money otherwise, then I would definitely encourage the other option.
And so next we're going to move into talking about majors. And so Steve, do you want to tell us a little bit about some factors that you considered when choosing your major?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to obviously look at things that you're interested in. And I think one of the best things about college is that you are here for 4 years, right? So I would definitely encourage you to take classes in multidisciplinary areas. So things that you thought that you may not have been interested in, I would definitely encourage you to try them. This last semester, I took like an interpersonal communications class, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think Valerie can talk about how much she enjoyed that class and how it kind of shaped her major choices as well. But yeah, once you find something that you kind of have a niche into, maybe find like a student organization that you could speak to about potential majors within that area. Something that a lot of people use here at UT also is called like LinkedIn. So if you want to talk to people that have already graduated with that major, so you could ask what potential career opportunities you have if you do decide to pursue that major. I definitely think that it's a great idea, but if you don't know what you do want to do by the time that you're here at UT, then I definitely say not to stress about it, because there is endless opportunities here for you to find out what it is that you generally want to do.
Yeah, to add on just to a little bit to what Steve said is definitely don't, like you said, don't be afraid if you don't know what you want to do. I was in that same position, and kind of just like branching out at UT and taking classes that I thought would interest me really, really helped me kind of guide me towards like the path that I want to take. I initially thought I wanted to study social work, and taking a social work class kind of gave me some perspective on what that degree looks like at UT, and also like what kind of jobs that career offers. And so ultimately I decided that wasn't the best fit for me. But in kind of taking those same classes that kind of sparked my interest, I came along a communications class that I absolutely fell in love with. And it really just played to my strengths. It was something that I knew I would enjoy. And yeah, so now I'm actually waiting to hear back on my decision for the Moody College of Communication.
I also think it's a really great resource to like talk to mentors and like people like that are in those majors that you are like interested in. Like I know like a lot of like previous like Subiendo team leaders, like they were accounting majors, and like I would talk to them, or like people are just like friends of Subiendo, like I would talk to them and say like, hey, like what did you do? How did you prepare for this? How did you decide? And that kind of made my decision to choose accounting like a little bit easier, and just like didn't have me so worried.
Great. So now we're going to move on to kind of the social aspect of college. UT is a very big campus, so this question is open to anybody. Does anyone want to talk about how they made friends on campus?
I would like to talk about this one. So specifically how I made friends in college was, to start off, you see who your like dorm mate is or your roommate is, and then get to know him or her, and then ask him who his or her friends are. And then from there, you just like start to meet people. Myself, I'm very extroverted, so whenever I see someone in a class or in a group that I'm in, I just automatically say, hey, what's up? Like, how are you? Like, where are you from? And things of that nature. And one of the other things is, specifically for people who are more introverted, I know that's way harder for them. So first, try to like get that first friend that comes easily, and then ask them if they can like introduce you or if they can help you meet other people. But over time, you'll start to get more and more comfortable with the people that are around you. Organizations, taking classes that are not in your major is definitely a big one. You don't want to put yourself like in a bubble in college, because I know specifically for business, one of those bubbles that appears like you're only in the bubble, which is your major, or which is like the certain class that you take. But Austin is big. You have 50,000 people going to UT, and you definitely want to know people from, oh, who's in the computer science major, who's in the communications major, what is this org about Latinos, or there's like a rowing team or different type of spirit groups. You definitely want to make friends by involving yourself in that, meeting the people you already know. And then social media, like they make huge group me's, and they make huge like Facebook groups and chats where there's a bunch of different people from different majors. You can hit one of them up and ask them like, oh, can we meet up? Where are you from? What are you yourself involved in? And then from there, like your network starts to get bigger and bigger. And over time, you'll walk down Speedway and you're just gonna be like, hey, what's up? I know that person. I know that person. So that's kind of the way I navigated making friends at UT.
I like to add that, like, especially like in your first year, like, trust me, like everyone is just as scared as you. Like as soon as you like come into campus, like everyone's trying to make friends. They're like trust me, everyone. But like specifically for me, I think I met like the largest amount of my friends through Hispanic Business Student Association, which is a student org on campus, and also through Subiendo. Like those were just like the groups that I really like loved, and like I really loved like the whole entire atmosphere that was surrounding them. And also like just like staying involved in other things, like whether you're going to become an orientation advisor, like they have like their own friends. I was a resident assistant for a while, and I met a lot of friends through there too, through jobs, through like other leadership programs. Like you can definitely like find friends like everywhere. And like more often than not, people are just like happy to like talk and just like say like their little story.
Okay. What are some factors that you guys or that students should consider when looking at different organizations to join?
Yeah, I think it's really important to look at the time commitment that you can expect to give to that organization. Obviously, there is a lot of worry that you may have as a freshman coming in and being like, how many student orgs should I join? A lot of people come from high school and they're in like 7 different clubs in high school, and they're like have leadership positions in all of them. The really cool thing about college is that you really don't need that many organizations. A good recommendation is maybe like two, maybe 3 student orgs that you want to join your first semester. 2 is probably around that sweet spot. A lot of people suggest that you join a student organization that is relating to your major, is relating to something that you're studying, and then a second student org that is related to something fun that you want to try, maybe like an IM team or something like that. But I know something that was really important while I was looking was like a time commitment. How often do you guys meet? How much time am I going to have to dedicate to this outside of my regular schoolwork? That way I could just plan around. I know I definitely wouldn't want to take anything that was too much for me to swallow or to put too much for me on my plate. So yeah, I think those are all just really good things to keep in mind.
I definitely agree with all of that. I think another thing to keep in mind, and something that a lot of people don't often consider, could be financial constraints. So at least at UT, a lot of organizations do require what they call dues to join them. And it's basically a fee that you will either pay yearly or semesterly to kind of cover your participation in that organization. And I know that for some people, to kind of see that fee, and especially if it's a high fee, that can be kind of scary. But I don't think that that should discourage you from applying to those organizations, because there's a lot of resources that you can use to cover that fee. And so a lot of times the organization itself will offer a scholarship, or you can talk to their financial director and they can, waive it for you or do a payment plan. But if you just absolutely don't want to pay that fee, there's probably another organization similar to that one that you may be able to pay less with. You can also talk to for example, for Subiendo, I know that they, are considering, or they want to help students with that aspect. So just reach out to your resources and see what you can do to make sure that you're able to fully participate in what you want to participate in.
I know a good website to check out, like if you want to see what type of groups are available on campus, is HornsLink. There's a lot of organizations there, and you can search for specific types. Like if you want to join a Latino spirit group, or Greek life, or cooking classes, or yoga. There's pretty much anything on that website that you can look at, and it'll help a lot.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the year, I think there's always like student fairs or like org fairs, and a bunch of them will be like tabling outside, trying to get like new members to join. And I think like for me, like how I chose it, like the specific organizations I want to be a part of is just like going to their general meetings or like going to their events and like seeing which one I felt like the most welcome in and which one I like connected to the people the most.
So moving on, joining orgs is a lot of fun, but a lot of times it can be really easy to kind of get consumed in that. So our next question is, how do you balance social life and school life? So Cassie, do you want to start us off with that question?
Yeah, I think at least with me, I sort of stayed involved in organizations that aligned with my major. So I was in the Freshman Research Initiative, and I hung out with friends from there, and inherently they were also in a lot of the classes that I had to take. So I found it easy to be with friends who understood or who had the same workload as me, because we'd understand that certain like very hard science classes took lots of time, or classes in general just require a lot of time commitment to read, to write, and to study. And so I found it easy to have that kind of group of friends that understood that. And I think something to keep in mind, of course, is just time management, to have something like Google Calendar or an actual physical planner to sort of block out your days when you want to go have social time with friends or when you want to study. I think it's important to not get too caught up in, being social. I think it can kind of be easy, especially when you're a freshman. But time management is definitely the most important thing.
I would definitely say in terms of balancing like social and your work, I think one of the major things that I struggled with when I was a freshman was what they call FOMO, like the fear of missing out. And that is definitely true. Like you might join an org that will have 3 to 10 activities in a week or two, and you have friends that are going to those events and they invite you, but you realize they're not absolutely necessary. But the fact that your friends are going and you're trying to, for example, if you're trying to study and you know your friends are at that event, it's just like something in the back of your mind that's like, oh my Lord, like, I'm missing out. You have to get rid of that, because what you start to realize is that there's going to be more opportunities later for you to do that. But you really have to focus on your schoolwork and also yourself. You have to balance it, and the fact that the way that I started thinking about it my freshman year was like, okay, I'll just wait and see how everything goes. Like I'll spend this much time here, this much time here. I'll try to get this amount of sleep. And through experience, I started learning, okay, I need to emphasize certain parts of my life. Now that I'm like going to go my junior year, I'm really thinking about it by the hour. I'm thinking about, okay, this is how my day is going to look like. I wake up at this time. I get breakfast at this time. I'm going to go to the class between these blocks. I'm going to go to this org at this block. But when is the time for me as well? So that's like the second thing that I really emphasize, is that if you start to like block out your days, you'll start to notice that if you start fitting everything with just work and orgs, you can't do that for 3 months straight. You can't do that for an entire 2 semesters. Like you're going to burn out. So what you're going to try to do is make sure that your health is in check. Like make sure you get enough sleep. Make sure you at least have an hour or two for yourself, and then making sure you get your work done. And then from there, you can start adding things later, but definitely pay attention to the fear of missing out and giving yourself time to be by yourself, because if you are consumed by everything else, you're going to burn out.
Thank you for sharing that. So next we're going to move on to a very important experience that many students at UT face, but it's not often talked about, and that's the first gen experience. So the first question that I'm going to ask you guys is to tell us a little bit about your experience as a first generation college student, if that's applicable to you. And I'll go ahead and start with my experience. So I'm a first generation college student. My parents did not go to college. They don't have any education whatsoever, pretty much. And so college was a very scary thing for me because I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really have anyone to turn to talk about that. I think that when I came to college and I, realized that this is kind of stuff that was over my head, I felt very overwhelmed. And that's kind of a easy feeling to feel when it's also new to you. And I think that's something I suffered with was imposter syndrome, which is where I thought that I didn't belong. But like we mentioned earlier, I think it's about finding those resources and finding that support on campus, because I thought I was alone in that feeling and I realized that I really wasn't. And so it's about kind of finding the people that support you and that you can share your concerns with, and that they can help you and uplift you, and that you do belong in college, and you earned your spot to be in that classroom with other students.
I think to kind of piggyback off of that is, I think imposter syndrome is something that like a lot of first generation students experience when they first come to college. I know when I first came to college, I didn't really think that being 9 hours away from home was too far. Like I really thought that it was like a sweet spot because I was still in Texas. But I very quickly realized that even within my first year like groups, I heard people talking about like the fact that they felt homesick, and being able to go home to like their parents' cooking was like really reassuring for them. And the fact that I couldn't do that was just like, I think, a really big hit to me. It kind of just like made me realize that my first couple months at UT, my whole life revolved around UT. And so when I wasn't at school, because I also lived off of campus my first year, I felt like really alone. I didn't feel like I had any friends. I didn't really have any like responsibilities outside of school. And so I kind of just felt really trapped. And, you know, like Astrid mentioned, finding a group that you could go to and kind of just like be reassured that you belong at UT and like that everything will be okay is extremely important, because these are things that can affect your studies. I know I found myself like doing very, very poorly in a class, and it wasn't until I went to go talk to Leticia, actually, our director for Subiendo, that I realized like it's okay, and like a lot of people are struggling, and just because they're not open about it doesn't mean that you're the only one who is doing poor in that class. And so having those resources and someone to talk to and just kind of like let it all out, I think is extremely important.
Yeah, I think Valerie made a really good point. You're not alone. I think it's so easy to think that when you're in college and when you're struggling, you're like, oh, I'm probably the only one struggling in this class. Like, no, that's not true. Many people struggle, many people don't do so well sometimes, and that's okay. As long as you just keep pushing and you reach out to people, whether it's people in like, there's like specific offices for first generation students, look for them. I know for sure UT has one. Talk to people, talk to your professors, go to tutoring. It's important that you just don't give up and you're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Also, there's like so many students that like literally like did that like just like a year before you, or like a year, 2 years before you, and like more often than not, like they're so willing to help. Like I know like I could reach out to Astrid and like I could ask her any questions that I had. I could like reach out to people from my hometown within those organizations that I was in, and just get like that mentorship. Like it really helped me just like know that like I wasn't alone, and that if they could do it, like I could also. So definitely just reach out to people, like how everyone has been saying, like everyone wants you to succeed, and like those resources are there, but like more often than not, you just have to ask for help.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's more first gen students that are coming to college every single year. So I think if we're all a part of this kind of like trend that's coming now, and even UT has like a first gen specific initiative that is able to, you know, offer you any help, offer you any resources, whether that be tutoring, any emotional help that you may need. And I think that it's really, really neat that they're able to do that. But
And so continuing to talk about the first gen experience, I know that considering that a lot of us, our parents didn't go to college, the fact that we are moving away from home can be really scary for them. And I know that all of us here in this chat are, you know, living away from home in completely different cities. So this question is open to anybody, but how did you have that talk with your parents about moving away from home to college? And, you know, how did you kind of navigate those fears that they may have had for you?
I think for my parents, they really wanted me to stay in like the university, like here in my hometown, UTRGV. But I was like, no, like I really want to go to McCombs and stuff like that. But they just like weren't really for it, and like they also knew that like it was gonna be so much cost. I was gonna be so far away. Like they were like scared of all of those things. But once I like reassured them as to like, no, like trust me, like I can pay for it, and like you all won't have to like put in much or like anything at all. Like don't worry, I'll be fine. And like also like telling them about like all those friends that I had that like had already done that a year before me. It just like helped them see like, okay, like she's gonna be okay, like there's people over there that are gonna look after her a little bit. And just telling them like, yeah, like everything will be okay. I think like that just let them be okay with my decision to go to UT.
I think that for me, in my experience, when I brought my parents onto campus and they kind of saw how real everything was, it, not that they didn't believe in me, but it kind of calmed down their fears, and they realized that I was leaving home for a greater purpose, and that I wasn't, you know, going to go somewhere strange and unsafe, but really I was going to go somewhere where I could grow and I could learn. And, you know, that's what they wanted for me ultimately in the end. So I think if you're able to, and I know that's not possible for everyone, but if you're able to share, you know, where you're going, where you'll be staying, even maybe just showing them pictures of your campus, showing them the classes you signed up for, they kind of see that it's all, you know, more real, and it almost excites them, and they kind of start to feel more comfortable with it. And, you know, at the end of the day, your parents love you and they won't hold you back from those dreams. So kind of just having to talk to them and tell them, you know, what it is that you really want to go there for. And, you know, that means that you also have to be sure in yourself and what you're doing and your goals that you want to accomplish. But just being open with your parents and having that conversation with them, I think, is really important.
Yeah, same case with my parents. They were pretty afraid of me coming into a new town and not being close to home. But I think having that conversation with them about how it's an investment in your future and how important it is to sometimes, you know, go away from home and how much you can grow and learn from that experience. And yeah, I think what Astra said is really important, to kind of show them pictures, or even like if you have the choice to bring them onto campus and to realize that you're going to be okay. Oh, and one of the things that I was going to say was I'm very much so family oriented, and I think something that really helped me coming onto campus and being so far away from my family was calling my mom like every day. I would be like, Mom, this is what's going on, or like I'll send her a picture of something. I'll be like, this is like the most exciting thing of my day. Just like staying in touch with my family was very important to me, and I think they'll appreciate, you know, you sending that text or giving them that call.
Okay, and so we're kind of approaching the end of our time here, but I wanted to give you guys a space to reflect on your experience so far at UT, and if anybody wants to share a really memorable experience that they've had in college at UT. And so I think I'll go ahead and start and share an experience. And I just graduated from UT, so I've done a lot of reflection recently, but I think that when I think about UT, I think first about the relationships that I've made and all the great friends. And I can truly say that the friends that I've made are lifelong friends, and they're, you know, great friends that I would not have been able to kind of form those friendships if I hadn't gone to UT and I hadn't put myself out there. So that's something that I really value about my time at UT.
I think one of my favorite moments was when I got my ring. So like basically I think it was this past October, November. But it was such a really nice moment because I got to share it with like my family. And I don't know, I just felt like all the hard work that we've been putting into all of this, it's like really meant a lot. And I just love like sharing those moments with my family as well. Like I'm almost done, but not quite yet. But it's just like a little taste of what's to come.
I think a really special moment that I had, maybe a little bit different. I'm just a really big football fan, as I mentioned earlier, and I come from a high school. There was absolutely no school spirit. So we had no sports, we had no band. Our school colors were literally gray and black. So that tells you just about enough that you need to know. But I was at a UT football game, and literally everyone was singing along. And I was like in the student section with my friends. I think it was like one of the first couple of games, but it was just really, really neat because, you know, I was finally standing here, like getting to live and getting to enjoy the college experience. So it was something really, really neat. And I know that I'm definitely going to be able to cherish that as years go on.
One of my favorite memories of the past year was actually the very beginning of the school year. The freshmen get gone to Texas every year where the year you're supposed to graduate gets put on the tower as it lights up. And just the traditions that are rooted within the Gone to Texas and then everything else that rolls after is amazing. Like, it's truly incredible to see the deep rooted traditions, everybody's full spirit, everybody really loves UT, and it's just amazing to see the combined love for one school and one purpose.
One of my favorite memories at UT, it's not like a big event or anything like that, but specifically I was with a group and we were working on this project, and it was from my entrepreneurship class, and I was a freshman at the time. It was like coming towards the end of the semester. I had came up with like a business idea. That was the whole point of the project. We come up with a little business idea. We create a pitch deck. We're going to put it out there. And I was so keen about, oh, I want to do this fashion app where you have like a virtual closet. And I had to pitch it in front of the class. And a very cool thing about the entrepreneurship class is like there's people from all these different countries. Like a lot of international students take that class. So when I pitched to the class and I created and formed the group, it was people from France, people from Sweden, people from Spain, and things like that in general. And then as the semester continued, I just got to know them very well and became really good friends with them. And I remember the day before the project was due, we all did like an all-nighter. So we all got like our Starbucks, we all got like our bangs, or like it was serious. We were at the PCL. We were there from like 11 p.m. till 10 a.m. the next morning. So we had worked on the project like all those hours. I don't know how many hours that is, but yeah. At the end of the day, like at 4 p.m., we like presented. Everybody went to go take their nap. We presented. And then after that, we felt really accomplished. But I quickly realized that I'm not going to see these people anymore. They're moving back to their countries. But just the thought that we all did something together, we all stayed up together, we all kept in contact with each other, and I have them like on Instagram and stuff. I know that if I ever go to France or if I ever go to Sweden or to Spain, like I have someone there that I really had like a real good connection with. And I think that's one of the memorable things for UT, that you meet people from everywhere around the world, and you know you stay connected to them in the future.
So my moment, UT Austin's really big in research, and after I got the opportunity to conduct research for about a semester or two, I was able to be a mentor for that lab. And I think a moment that really stuck out to me was when I was able to sort of relay a lesson to someone who was just starting out in the lab. They seemed, kind of sort of uncomfortable with making mistakes. And I think a moment that stuck out to me the most was being able to share my experience with them, that I too was afraid, and that it's important to, have the growth mindset. It's okay to fail as long as you learn from your mistakes and improve upon them. And I think that was a special moment for me because I realized how important it is to just keep trying.
Yeah, I think the most memorable moment I have at UT so far has been to be a team leader for Subiendo, actually. I know I know it sounds like a little biased, but I really do mean it when I say that if it weren't for Subiendo, I wouldn't be at UT. And that, that's including the people, the resources, the, tight-knit circle, or just like everything that Subiendo has been able to offer for me. But last year I was able to be a team leader for the first time, and having a group of students that looked up to me and thought about me like, oh, like I want to be in your place. I think just really made it come full circle for me, because I remember being in their shoes, and it just felt really good to be able to provide that support for other students who will be coming to UT hopefully, or just, pursuing a higher education in general. And it was just like a really special moment.
Okay, so thank you all so much for joining us in this virtual college panel. Our goal for this was to share our experiences that we've learned so that the next class of UT students and college students could have a resource to use during this really difficult time. We thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate you all helping us in our effort to make sure that that high school students are informed when going into college. And I hope that for all of the students watching, that this was super helpful for you guys, and that you know that we are always here for you as a resource, and that the Subiendo Academy is a place that you can always turn to despite what college that you're interested in. So thank you all for joining us.